Thank you very much, and thank you so much for to the Department of Justice. It's a great pleasure to be here. Good to say hi to Madame Malo as well from the Minister of Women and Child Development, and I do want to congratulate participants for having convened us all together on this important topic. I hope my presentation can be seen.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can see your presentation.
Thank you very much. So before I start, I want to use a very powerful quote from Nelson Mandela that reminded us that there is no keener revelation of the society's soul than the way we treat our children. And I'm starting with that because we are dealing, and today's topic is extremely essential. And we need to consider and remind ourselves the importance of children's rights and the importance of bringing up and ensuring that the realization of the rights of the children, no matter in which situation, especially for those most vulnerable, which is what we are here together for. We are very privileged for those that work on children's human rights to come with the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is actually the human rights instrument that received the most number of ratifications. There is only one country in the world that has not yet ratified. So we can, for all purposes, consider it as customary international law, or for those lawyers that are here, using the Latin terminology, jus cogens. That means that it is really rooted and it cannot be contested even in national legislations. This is how strong the children's rights floor holds international as well as nationally, and I'll touch on the national framework in a minute. India, of course, ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child in December 1992, only a few years after the Convention on the Rights of the Child was showed the light in 1989. And there are four domains of rights that the convention and then the subsequent national legislations have around right of survival, protection, development, and participation. When we talk about children in need and care and protection, the focus of today, we normally really focus on the point of right to protection, and I'll explain a little bit later why. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll just mention briefly that it's a privilege to work in India, because India really counts with a very robust, strong legal framework for the protection of children. It is mentioned in the Constitution. It is grounded on the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act, which I'm sure all of you know. But there are other legislation pieces that are also relevant for today's discussion, including the Child Marriage Act, the Child and Adolescent Labor Act, of course, POCSO, as well as the Right to Children for Free and Compulsory Education Act. And then a very important body or act is the National Commission for Protection of Children's Rights that, among others, of course, establish a very crucial institution in the country, the NCPCR, and the relevant state level SCPCR that provide a very important oversight support for the realization of children's rights agenda. We won't get into the details on that, but these are the relevant articles in the convention, as well as in the India Constitution, that of course is the foundation of the legal rights in the country. Now, very briefly, when we talk about children in need of care and protection, which children we are talking about? There is a lot of situations that might lead for these children to be unfortunately rendered as children in need of care and protection. Can be because they are victims of violence, because of early marriage, because they are forced to leave their homes for a number of situations or contexts that grow in the streets, that they are without the parents because either they are rendered orphans or just because the parents cannot take care of them, or they are abandoned or separated for other reasons. So we can see that the spectrum is very extended. So I'm going to skip this slide because I know the time is limited, so I can focus on a few points. Of course, you know, considering what brings us together, right, from the perspective of rights, and you know, I know there is a lot of justice practitioners here. Behind every crime against child, the chances are that there might be a child in need of care and protection. So I just thought to bring in a few statistics related to crimes against children that, as you can see, has been steadily increasing with the exception of last year. And I do want to flag here that many times in many contexts, actually an increase in crimes against children might actually be a good symptom, because it means that the systems, the mechanism, and even the faith in the justice system might increase. We know that the underreporting might be there, and we may face the situation in which victims might not seek justice and redressal mechanisms. We see this particularly also in the case of POCSO. We focus on the blue line, where we see a significant increase in cases, which again, while this could be a bit of a speculation, but normally it is associated of an improvement in the reporting mechanisms. Finally, very briefly on missing children, what I do want to mention here is, of course, the magnitude of the problem. If you see the orange is girls and blue is boys, we also see a strong gender lens into the missing children phenomena. And I'm highlighting here this because, you know, it is important to recognize that a lot of girls are undergoing missing, and unfortunately, it might be linked also to cases of sexual violence or sexual exploitation, also in the context of trafficking. Finally, on children in conflict with the law, I just do want to mention two things. One, of course, the implications of having high level of pendencies, 54% in the left side. And perhaps just a quick reflection to say that statistics show that in the country, 13% of children in conflict with the law end up having some measure, either imprisonment, sent to special home, or institute. And I'm bringing this because it is important to also consider this cohort. Behind a child in conflict with the law, a lot of times there is a child actually in need of care and protection, and we know that there's a lot of vulnerability reasons that that unfortunately put a child in a situation of in conflict with the law. And this is the final slide, and I'm just going to offer a few reflections of areas that are particularly important for a system to be effective when it relates to addressing the needs and situation of children in need of care and protection. In each country, there is a child protection system. Sometimes it's called social services, social welfare system. We need to continue looking at that from the perspective of a sector. It needs to be, among other things, adequately resourced, and probably the most important element, there needs to be a professional workforce that is capable of working and addressing the vulnerabilities, putting emphasis on the prevention side, and then also making sure that there is a body of social workers, paralegal workers, and others that connect one another to be able to provide adequate assistance and support in the different domains of child protection, welfare, custody issues, as well as justice and mental health and psychosocial support issues. I already mentioned the perspective of prevention, right? We don't need to wait and be reactive, meaning having a system in which we only provide assistance, support, and react once the child is rendered in a child welfare committee as a child in need of care and protection. It is important that we put more focus on the prevention, and for that we need to work with vulnerable families. Which leads me, I guess, to the other point, which is the importance of ensuring that institutionalization, separation of family, is really the measure of last resort. We should aim of a system in which there is no child separated from their families because of the socioeconomic vulnerability, vulnerability conditions. And the last point that I will mention is that we've talked about very complex issues, children experiencing violence, separation, missing, trafficking, child labor. All these really require multi-sectorial convergence if we are to be effective to give this child another chance, and again, address those vulnerabilities before it becomes too late. I do want to commend, the efforts in the country to build a child protection system. The new mission, Vatsalia mission guidelines are very welcome. The roles that NCPCR is having, as well as, of course, the Ministry of Justice in providing an effective justice systems. And as UNICEF, we very much look forward to continuing building a system, building an environment where every vulnerable child has a second chance in life to reach their full potential and thrive in life. Thank you very much.